For us, actually, some of the innovative provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, which was passed in 2015, is that it tries to give us a comprehensive criminal procedural administration, a criminal justice administration in Nigeria, by merging both the criminal procedural code, which originally applied in the northern part of Nigeria, and the Criminal Procedure Act, which applied in the southern part of Nigeria. So it's now a kind of one composite legislation, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015. So even though it's a federal legislation, we also know that several states are now adopting Administration of Criminal Justice laws in different states, and we just have less than 6 states across the country that are yet to adopt these legislations. Another thing we also want to say is that the law also provides for the opportunity for us to stop things we call stay of proceedings, in the sense that initially there were situations and circumstances where people could go for stay of proceedings and try to stop administration of criminal justice generally. So one of the key things that this legislation has done in terms of Section 306 and Section 396 of the ACJA is to ensure that stay of proceedings no longer hamper the administration of criminal justice. Also, in addition, the law makes provision in Section 28 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act to ensure that every month police officers who arrest individuals actually report back to magistrates so that they know the number of people who are in police cells or the number of people who are detained. And then under Section 29 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, there is a responsibility for the police officers and also even the magistrates to make a return to the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice in terms of people who are arrested, those who have been detained, and those who have also been incarcerated. So for us, it's something that is important for us to know the number of individuals who are arrested, the number of individuals who are detained, and also the number of individuals who are still under the correctional services.
ACJA, in summary, I can say is a landmark legislation in Nigeria. And you see, ACJA is applicable at the federal level. It's applied by federal courts and federal institutions generally, which are involved in the criminal justice system. Now, what many states have done in Nigeria is also to pass a law modeled after ACJA. So Lagos State, even before ACJA was passed, they passed their own Administration of Criminal Justice Law 2007. Then ACJA was passed at the federal level in 2015. But Lagos was just the only state that did that. So many states passed their own law after ACJA came into being in 2015. Oyo State in 2016 passed its own Administration of Criminal Justice Law. So, but the provisions of ACJL, that is an Administration of Criminal Justice Law of any state, and that of ACJA, the provisions are not essentially different. They have a lot of things in common, and the primary thing or primary objectives of these laws are just to speedify prosecution of criminal cases in Nigeria.
When you talk about the implementation of the criminal justice law, you also need to get it to the people who this law is supposed to protect. Because if they don't know this law, how do they speak out against such against violations of the provision of this law? And then how do we get these people to know about this law? Is by getting the copies of this law to them. But funny enough, a copy of this law in Osun State is sold for 7,500 naira. Considering the living condition of people in this part of the world, who would think of, oh, let me take 7,500 naira to go and buy a copy of the ACJN? For me, I think it is very, very, very expensive. There's somebody, one of a person, a key actor of the criminal justice system, who said that she cannot afford to buy that law for 7,500 naira. Then imagine the common man on the street. How do we expect them to get knowledge of this law if they cannot afford to even get copies? It is true that there is need for sensitization for the implementation of this law, but beyond the sensitization, beyond going to meet them, beyond talking to them, they should also have, the common man should also have a copy of this law from which he or she can be able to tell the police coming to arrest him or her in lieu of a relative that no, you cannot arrest me in lieu of somebody who have committed this offense. This law have provided that whosoever commits an offense should be the one that is arrested. But you see, on a very normal day, the police will just come, hey, where is your son? And the son is not there. The police is arresting the mother, arresting the father, or arresting anybody at home. This law have made so many provisions. The law have also gone ahead to say that a woman can also stand shorty. Because it is common in Nigeria, and then you see somebody say, she's a woman, how can she stand shorty? For me, that is discriminating, and thank God to the law. Now a woman can also stand shorty. And there is another very important provision in this law that I really admire. The fact that designated magistrates now goes from police station to police station within their jurisdiction to check who is in custody. Is there somebody in custody that is there that is not supposed to be there? She can grant such person bail or order the police that they arraign such a person in court. There are also other provisions that have said the police should also give report of people in their custody. And then so many other provisions limiting the amount of adjournment a party can get in a particular case. Prior to the implementation of this law or the coming into effect of this law, you have one criminal case running for years. Sometimes you have somebody spending 10 years in prison for an offense he never committed. There is a case of one boy back then in Osun State that we met in prison. He said the police were just doing the normal raiding. They saw him and they arrested him with some other people. He was charged for malicious damage of property worth 24,000 naira. He was remanded in court, but for 1 year he was never taken to court. He was just left in prison because the court said, okay, let's give him the prosecutor a remand order so that he can be properly arraigned before the court with jurisdiction. But no, after that they never went back until the CJ came to his rescue and granted him pardon. So for me, I think if we can implement this law with passion, the Nigerian criminal justice system will be better for it.
Now, once a crime is committed, you report to the police. Police will do their investigation. And as I said before, unfortunately, the law did not now set the timeline for the police to start and conclude their investigation. In fact, this law, unfortunately, did one thing, which is not also good. But we believe that with the course of time, there will be an amendment to that. There is now a provision in the law now. That should be, I think that should be section 394, if I'm not wrong, of the Act now, that talks about the police or any prosecuting agency can now approach the court for order to continue to detain somebody in the name of continuing investigation, that they are still doing investigation over the case. That's what they did for this Showore. That's what they did for him, and that's why he stayed in detention for long before he was eventually charged to court. So there is still that gap in that law, which the law has not addressed. But when they conclude their investigation and they send the investigation file, which we call case file, to the Ministry of Justice or to any organ of government that will prosecute, either the EFCC or ICPC, because those ones also prosecute, just like the Ministry of Justice. Then legal advice should be rendered within 14 days. So there is 14 days set for that. Now, once legal advice is rendered within 14 days, the head of the judiciary, either the chief judge, most especially the chief judge, has a responsibility to assign that case to a particular judge that will try it within 14 days also. Now, once a case comes up in court, the court charged with the case has a responsibility to ensure that you hear the case day to day. When you when it comes up the first time, then you adjourn to the next day so that you continue on a daily basis until you conclude the case. But if for whatever reason it's not possible to do that, so to hear the case day to day, then you don't give adjournment for each of the two sides. You know, you have the prosecution side and you have the defense side. You don't give more than 5 adjournments for each of the two sides, and the interval between one adjournment and the other adjournment should not be more than 14 days also. So there is also that one set in the law, so as to make sure that you have quick dispensation of justice. So, and once you conclude the case and judgment is given. Now, another thing in the area of judgments, you know, before, the kind of judgments or punishments that we applied in this country was just send everybody to jail. Send everybody to jail. We call it custodial sentencing. Now, there are other alternatives to sentencing now.
What I did as a magistrate to make my trials fast, in criminal cases, I applied a non-custodial, even without the ABJA. I had cases where I'll convict you and send you to a health center to clean the toilets for 1 month. And you have a court official and one of the police, the court ordinance, going to supervise you. I had cases where in the penal code is allowed caning. I sentence you to 20 strokes of cane. The police carries out that sentencing. So we did things like that. Community service generally. ACTA provided for plea bargaining now. Yes. And I don't see them using it effectively. For corrupt cases, plea bargaining is fantastic. One, because you recover the stolen proceeds from the states. They will plea bargain. Yes, it's true, I took so amount of money, I'm ready to return it for a lower sentence. It helps a lot. So most of what has been taken can be returned back. The magistrate court is a court of summary jurisdiction. Do everything to make your case as fast as possible. I see magistrate court keeping cases for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It's wrong.
Okay, we know what work we do as people who are involved in the implementation of that law, but it's surprising how a lot of people do not have an idea of what that law is talking about, and they are so naive about it that sometimes it's even amongst learned people. So if there is an awareness, people can, instead of going to the correctional facilities, do some form of community service, the magistrates can now go to the detention areas and give them quick bail or just dispense with those cases. People can, there is witness protection. You don't need to be afraid of coming to testify anymore, because the law protects you and there's structure on ground to protect you. There is a lawyer for you if you don't have a lawyer. There has to be a lot of awareness. There has to be a lot of sensitization. There has to be a lot of broadcasts. There has to be one way of making sure that everybody is just aware that there is something new going on and I'm supposed to be a part of it.
Unfortunately, the courts in Nigeria too is bedevil with high level of corruption, making access to justice very difficult to members of the public. We have corrupt court officials who are doing touting in court premises. Yes, there is touting going on in all the court premises in Nigeria. If you doubt what I'm saying, go there now and pretend that you want to do maybe an affidavit. You see the number of persons that will be coming to you and telling you their willingness and readiness to prepare that affidavit for you. And in fact, you go to some court premises, you see that they have POS machine, which they collect cash from you and then use their ATM card to pay the normal token to government. For example, the cost of filing a document could be like 200 naira. I have an experience where the cost of filing was to be like 200 naira, but I paid 3,000 naira. Only surprisingly to see the lady using a POS machine card and his own ATM card to pay the 200 to government, and then 208 2,800 automatically goes to their pocket. And imagine if they are doing this to 10 people, 50 people, the number of litigants, the number of people looking for justice on a daily basis. Then again, the issues of the Directorate of Public Prosecution. The functions of the Directorate of Public Prosecution are not made known to the public. To what extent can the public engage with the Directorate of Public Prosecution of each of these states directly? Because police are now using the DPP as a threat to extort from members of the public. How do they do this? They will tell you, okay, that the bail of your relative is 100,000. And you say you don't have that, bail is paid. It's okay. If you are not going to pay, what they're going to do is they will charge the person before the court and send the case file to DPP. They know very well that there's going to be delayance at the time this case file will have to go to DPP and come out. So you'll be compelled to pay because nobody wants to waste time in this country. But I'm advising Nigerians that so long as we are trying to get our rights to the front burner, we should be patient and push harder and be committed to pushing for this right. So now, the Department of Public Prosecution, which is embedded within the Ministry of Justice of each of the states of the Federation, should try as much as they can to enlighten the public on their functions and how best the public can interface with them and at what point. Because ACJA has stipulated has spelled out the stipulated time an alleged suspect, a defendant in this case, should stay in custody, pending determination of his case before the court. And again, you go to the prisons. We have the prisons in the exclusive legislative lists of the Constitution, which automatically empower only the federal government of Nigeria to run the correctional services, as it is called now. But unfortunately, because of the continued practice of using lay prosecutors who are non-lawyers by the police, based on the delegated power that is given to them from the Office of the Attorney General to prosecute cases. And these lay prosecutors prosecute only before magistrate. And these magistrate courts are established by states. So it therefore means that each of the offenders that came before the law, before the magistrate, are offending the laws of the federating unit, not the federal government.
With this analysis, because it puts to full clear what is the situation. So beyond just having that data that you analyze, what do you do with it?
Okay, what we do, we are just secretariat, yeah? And that's one of our major tasks is to report to the committee. Okay. And the committee comprises of all the agencies, police. So that is that opportunity we have. We sat here today and we had a frank discussion. We faced the SCS, face the police. These are reports of our findings, especially on Section 34. Very interesting. We came up with issues like, the issue of signal. We discussed that. We have practical way of going around it. We discussed the issue of the corruption within, that is this. Another issue that's embedded within all this is the corruption within the criminal justice system. And I think that's where we all really need to work. And I thought there was one program, your corruption in criminal justice. I'm looking forward to actually say that. I think there's a lot because I recently, and that's just part of addressing the issue of what do we do with the report. Apart from just escalating with the committee, we actually report back directly to CP, FCT. Is one of our we recognize him as a champion at ACJ. I don't know how many of you have met with him. He's actually something that needs to be commended probably. He is very passionate about reforms and hoping to do the legacy. So we keep going back, even the issue of signal, we bring it back to him. The issues of non-compliance with orders. Some of it is to say if we follow up the orders that magistrates come up with, they go there today and they say release this man, release person. We have a way. In the past, we didn't have capacity to be doing that, and also we thought it was within our remit to be going. Is the magistrate order? Magistrate needs to do. The question was we were bouncing it back and forth. Is it the magistrate to send his or our magistrate or registrars to see the command, or are we the ones to be doing that? In the past, we didn't have that capacity. To be saying we'll be going back as we're visiting, also we'll be going back to monitor the compliance. But I think we have managed to address that. So joint follow-up is what we do. We are still limited in terms of, and then it's very daunting, but we are pursuing it. After the analysis, we know which visual police or agencies that are actually complying?
If police is a large institution, it's bound to have some that we have seen and some that have not seen or heard. So it's just looking at it that it's something that we can look into, and see how we can support. Because whether we like it or not, because it's a procedural law, and the issues begin from the police station with an IPO who is arresting somebody. Every officer needs to know what is in the law. Because as law enforcement officers, they have that duty. So as you as a lawyer, you know that ignorance of the law is no excuse. So if there are ways that we can ensure that at least it goes round all the state commands and divisions, we will be willing to assist. So that's what we are also taking. And also, like you said, the feedback. In any ways where we can, this is part of why we're saying the synergy and support that we can provide to this. That's where I will rest that issue.
The change of attitudes too is important. All the actors in the criminal justice system, they have to key into the objectives of this law. This law is about speedy dispensation of criminal justice and the congestion of prisons, which is critical. We have to do that. So if everybody can key into the objectives of the law and adjust their attitude accordingly, even the defense lawyers, they know that the whole system is gone. They have to embrace this new dispensation. That it's not a case of do or die. In criminal case, you don't have to win a case for your client at all cost. You still have a responsibility to the society and to the law to ensure that you do it according to the law. There is no issue of desperation. All these delay tactics, they have to do away with them so that you don't continue to waste the time of the court and frustrate criminal cases. Then, by the time we do all this, then the confidence of the people in the criminal justice system will be restored, and people will know that, oh, if I go to court and give evidence, there is assurance that justice will be done. Even if you don't win the case, we know that not that people who have roles to play, they won't play their roles. So I think by the time we do that, things will be better. The crime rate will go down. Then it will also have multiplier effects on our economic growth, on political stability. Because when people commit crimes and they know that being held accountable is not, there is no system for that, then that will be a kind of motivation for them to continue to commit crimes. Let's make Nigeria, let's make it known that crime does not pay in this country. Then Nigeria will be a better place for everybody to live.